Hello, welcome to Friday, whatever you call today. Welcome to TLD Cast. Today we have a very special topic we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about social media for your professional development. This is a community discussion, meaning we want everybody to participate. So I am one of your guest hosts today. I'm Cara North, and I'm joined with
Alan Natachu.
Yes, so we were going to talk through today just about our social media. We want to talk about your social media and how you use social media. So if this is your first TLD cast, again, we are so glad that you're here. We meet probably twice a week here, and we talk about various different topics and discussions. But when we're not live on the cast, you can actually join us in our Slack page. And on our Slack page, there's a lot of great information on there, and you can find it there in that link, the tldchat.us. That will get you into our Slack channel. So we actually have a big laundry list of questions to start with today. But as we're going through, we'd actually like to hear from you in the chat. So please, we want to hear from you today. So I am actually just going to kick off with some of the questions that we have in here. Please go to the question and answer feature there, ask a question, and give us a vote up or down if you like the question, so that way we know which order to answer them in. So before that, I'd like for my friend Alan to take a moment to introduce himself, and then I will introduce myself briefly. So Alan, take it away. Who are you?
I am Alan. I am broadcasting live from Madison Area Technical College in Madison, Wisconsin. You may notice that my lights will dim, the screen will get dark. I'm the only one here in the office right now, so it's very cool. After this, I'm just going to play some music over the speakers. I love doing that here in the office whenever I get the office to myself. Oh, I'm a learning experience designer with MATC.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
Hello.
Hey, happy Friday.
Rubina.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself.
Rubina, I am an instructional designer and working in consulting right now, freelance, first time doing this, and it's been good so far for the last, I guess, 6 to 8 months. So I'm happy about that. Other than that, been in instructional design for about 4 or 5 years, and out in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Outstanding. And if you are here and you want to hop in and talk about social media, we have one more spot left in the boxes. So if you want to come on camera, go ahead and just let me know in the chat, and I will bring you on. And again, my name is Cara North. I'm a senior learning experience designer now at The Ohio State University, broadcasting live from my home office this morning. So that's me. All right, so let's go ahead and hop into these questions and really go ahead and talk about social media. So the first question we have with our most votes is, are there any platforms that you avoid? So Alan, I'll kick that off to you first. Is there any platforms that you avoid on social media? Why or why not?
When something comes on new, I tend to avoid those for about 6 months to a year, just because I want to see if they stick around. And I want my platform to be relevant to me and what I do. I don't go off and try to do something else like, what's that one? TikTok. That one is a fun app, but I wouldn't use that for social media. I wouldn't use that for my professional development. I would use that to, I don't know what I would use that for, but that one just came out, 6 months, a year ago. And until I find out how to use it or how it could be used, then I'll jump in and use it. Another one I try to avoid is Facebook. I know that there's a lot of people on Facebook. I know it's one of the more accessible social media platforms, but it's so busy. It's super busy. I am involved in a couple of L&D groups, but when I'm on Facebook, that's my personal time. I want to connect with my family and friends and share my daily experiences with them, my private experiences with them, but not necessarily my work. So those are the two things that I try to avoid: Facebook and any new social media apps, platforms that come up, and see if they've been tested or not.
All right. How about you, Rubina?
I'm nodding my head profusely because I totally agree with Alan. I think the same thing. I tend to use LinkedIn and Twitter for work, and Facebook for home and family, social things locally in my community and things like that. I am on a couple of different groups for instructional design, but then I kind of think that more along my friends and family circle, rather than a work professional life circle. And so I try and keep those things separate. I don't advertise any of my Facebook things on my LinkedIn and vice versa. I just don't do that. And yeah, the same thing with Alan. If there's something new, I want to make sure that it's out of a beta mode, or it's been tested, and just see if it's a fad or if it's actually worth investing into, because it is a time investment for each platform that you do, and posts that you make, or the types of posts, or how you post, what you post, and who's receiving that. It takes time to figure those things out, and write accordingly. So I spend most of my time on, I would say perhaps 75% on LinkedIn, and now 25% on Twitter, which I just literally signed up for after so many years of trying not to. But I found out, I ended up signing up on it, because I was at a DevCamp conference, and I realized there were so many other instructional designers that were also using Twitter. And I wanted to follow some leaders in the field. And so that was my reasoning for actually joining it. So, yeah.
Cool.
Can I add on to this?
Go ahead.
I'm going to spin off to another question. Learning about social media platforms, my introduction to TLDC was a cast on Snapchat. That was my very first introduction to this to y'all, and I really enjoyed that. I don't use Snapchat for L&D, but I learned how to use Bitmoji for L&D. For you, those of you that don't know Bitmoji, you create an avatar that looks like you, and it creates custom scenarios for you. Like if you're tired, it creates several tired pictures of you. If you're happy, it creates several happy pictures of you. And I use those in my emails when, instead of saying okay or yes, I'll just throw up a picture, or I'll put up a picture on social media. But yeah, I find that to be very helpful. It's and I wouldn't have learned about that if it weren't for Snapchat and its integration with Bitmoji and Snapchat's AR capabilities. And I wouldn't have learned that if it wasn't for talking to other L&D professionals on how you could use it here in your work, in your daily life. So don't be afraid to try something new.
Yeah, I remember that. That was Myra, I think, right? Myra
Yeah.
and Ann that did that. And yeah, you're right. That was actually my first thing with Snapchat too. I hadn't had a Snapchat then, but then ended up buying the glasses kind of in part of that TLD cast. And now I can't live without my Snapchat spectacles. I love them so much. Yeah. For me, I think for the question about the social media platforms, really, it's kind of exactly what you guys said. I spend most of my time on actually more Twitter than LinkedIn, but I'm trying to balance that out a little bit more. But Facebook is just kind of like Cara the person, not like Cara the instructional designer. But I have overlap. I have a bunch of people in this industry that have become friends, and they are part of personal Cara and instructional design Cara as well. So yeah, I agree exactly with everything you all said. Don't really have anything else to add on that. Looks like the chat said very similar things. That Toddy has said something a little bit earlier about Facebook being a personal platform, and I certainly agree with that. I think a lot of people still kind of see it that way. Next question, and we'll start with you, Rubina. How do you manage your connections?
Wow, very good question. That leaves room for interpretation here too. If anybody wants to type in something more specific that they want to know about, let me know. For me, I think I have my biggest following in LinkedIn. And it just kind of, for me, started out very organically. I had my, you get on LinkedIn, and I was on there years and years and years ago, and it was very different years ago when it first started out, and you just kind of connect in with your friends and business partners and whatnot, but you're not really interacting. I don't think it was used as much as a social platform for work a long time ago when it first started. So I kept it in the background, and then I actually didn't get work from LinkedIn. I would get work from other websites and stuff, and so I had it there. I had my profile up there. I had things that I did over the years. I would update it. And then recently, perhaps about a couple years ago, I see this change and the shift, and I just get on board, and I wanted to meet other instructional designers, and so I decided to start reaching out to anybody that was mentioned for me as an instructional designer, people you may know or people you may want to meet. And when I saw that title, I just started, clicking in, and the first few handful of folks I connected with led to other connections, and that's how it kind of just grew. And in the beginning, I was sending, private, personal messages like, "Hi, I would like to know you and learn from you, and can we connect and whatnot." And I was sending those out until a point where I started getting um, people trying to connect to me, which was really nice. And then it just kind of went back and forth a little bit, and grew from there. And then the private messages kind of would take way too much time. And so after a while, I kind of stopped that. But every now and again, I would just post publicly, like, "I'm connecting with you. Thank you for connecting with me." I like to just be around a circle of L&D people. And so whoever I think is in the game, I would just like to know you and learn from you. And it's been amazing for me, for my professional development, for my growth, for problem solving at work, for things that you kind of need to figure out, but you can't talk about it at work, or there may not be somebody to talk about it to at work because you have a limited amount of people in your group. And so I found that to be very useful, to just reach out and talk to these folks that I made connections with. And it was just so valuable. And people had all sorts of ideas and tips and tricks, and I just grew and grew and grew, professionally and with people, just connecting with people. It was just amazing. I loved it. Yeah, the reception was really good.
That means a lot, especially when it's your time, and you're putting your time into it and you're getting a lot out of it. That's really great to hear. What about you, Alan? How do you manage everything?
That's a good question. Um, I was reading somewhere about social media management and what is your preferred uh, platform, and you should
Mhm.
invest most of your time in that platform, but keep up with the rest. I think the rule was like 80-20, 80% on the platform of your choice and 20% on the other platforms. Um, but the way that I manage my connections is I'm a heavy Twitter user. I love Twitter. It's I could relate to Twitter. I can relate to what's happening. I can answer quickly. It's immediate feedback. Um, but how I manage connections is um, I see what other people are talking about. I follow Twitter chats. Um, there's a new one. There's a good one by the e-learning guild that happens at 1 o'clock Wisconsin time. The e-learning guild chat, the guild chat. So if you're on Twitter, haven't participated in a chat, this is a very awesome one for you to follow. Hashtag guild chat. Thank you. Um, and from there, I get to see who else is participating. Um, in other social media services, it's the, hey, you may know this person, like on LinkedIn or in Instagram. Hey, how about this person? How about that person? And I view their profile and see if they're compatible with me and follow the same kind of L&D topics that I would be interested in. But I don't keep it strictly L&D. With my social media connections, I like to venture off into other places, other people. I'm a big film freak, so I follow a lot of people who produce film, who make film, who are editors. I follow silent media gifs or silent movie gifs. Uh, so I get every once in a while L&D, Charlie Chaplin. So it's great to not only just focus on what you're working on, but try to find people outside of your L&D profession. That way you can get inspired, you can see what's happening. And if have a specific topic in L&D, let's say you're a great content writer, you're a great technical writer, well, you could follow fictional, real life writers. I'm very creative, so I got a lot of art people, I got a lot of video editing people. So yeah, just branch out. Don't just stay focused, branch out. And this is a safe place to branch out. And if you don't like what they're posting, after a while, you could always unfollow them.
It's pretty easy. Yeah.
Yeah, great tips, Alan. Go ahead.
Yeah, one more thing. Yeah, so L&D, I think, largely on LinkedIn, and I do the 80-20% that Alan mentioned as well too, so that you're not chewing up all your hours, being able to manage things and whatnot. And then I think I followed when I was making 911 dispatcher training. I really wanted to meet the learners, and that was not possible in the office I was in. And that happens a lot with a lot of training and development people. You create your training, you deliver it, but you never get to see your learners. And so I just started on social media, different avenues, connecting with 911 dispatcher groups, and just kind of gleaning in and listening in and seeing who they were and what they were about. And I really got a better understanding of the learner profile just from that one experience. So that's just one example. Yeah, connecting with your content, whatever content you're working on at the time for whatever training you're developing, the best thing you could do is go on social media, and I'm sure there's a group for pretty much any topic. As far as I've seen, that's always been true for me, so that you can know your learners. It's the best avenue, especially if you can't otherwise. So yeah.
What a great tip, using it to connect with your audience. I think that's something that we should all do. So I love that. That's a great tip. I would just add a couple different things from my perspective. So I started on social media very late to the game. So that's always something that I give newbies in the industry. I'm like, you need to get your social media on lock soon and quicker, because that way you can connect with everybody. And I'm sure people are sick of hearing the story about how I met Mike Taylor in 2016 and he told me to get a Twitter and the rest was history. I basically followed him and listened to everything that he said. But I approach social media as a 24/7 conference. And if you are not part of that and you are not giving your time and energy to that, then shame on you, because Shakespeare said it way back in the day that the world is a stage, and so is social media. So you have a platform to get your ideas out there, to get evaluation on things that you're doing, to have a conversation about something you want more information on. So if you are not invested in that for yourself and you're in this industry, you should be a professional learner, in my opinion. So if you're not a professional learner, then what are you doing in L&D? Just side soapbox there. As far as like managing the connections, I'm pretty ruthless and deliberate about it. So a couple of things that I look for in connections is, one, I want it to kind of be balanced. So I don't always just want the thought leaders and the seasoned veterans, but I want a lot of newbies on my feed, because I find I learn so much from them. Just the way they approach things. They're like working out loud, the way that they ask questions about, well, why do we do a needs assessment? Or why do we have to do a storyboard? Just simple questions like we don't really think about because we're just kind of in autopilot a lot of times. Man, I mean, it's really helped me kind of think about things a little bit more broadly. Couple other things. I cut pretty frequently on my LinkedIn and my Twitter. I cut because several reasons. The one biggest pet peeve of mine, and I think Jane Bozarth kind of coined this, but the blogger tunist. So you put something out there and then you like have a shameless plug for yourself about everything. I can't stand that. And I don't like the brag hags either. The people that are just like, look how great I am. I do everything wonderful. No, it's not about you. It's about what you can give the community. So I'll get off my little side soapbox there. But those are just kind of the things that I do as far as to manage my connections.
I just had one more thing I was going to add. And great tips, great things. I agree 100% and wholeheartedly. Yeah, why be an L&D if you're not going to commit to it and continually grow, continually learn? It has to be a continual process for you. Otherwise, you're going to fall behind your peers, your coworkers, your cohort, your field. And why take that risk? Essentially, you are risking yourself if you're not keeping up with what's going on out there in the world, especially new technologies and new things that are there to make processes more efficient. You're just going to fall behind at some point, I think. So Cara, yes, right on point. I totally agree. One thing that I just remembered for managing it is that I'm not sitting around on my computer all day long and all night long and checking my LinkedIn and whatnot. I'm using my apps. I've got it on my phone. Invest in a good phone. When you're an L&D, you've got to have some kind of a budget for yourself to have your tech toys. And so it just is that way. And we are in a little bit of an expensive field, and it is. There's a lot of things out there that we can have for free, but some things you just want to make sure you do invest in. Always invest in yourself. Every year, invest in yourself. Make that goal to invest in yourself in some way, in some shape or form, and continue with that. And so one of the things that I invested in is having the technologies available to me quickly. So I'll have the LinkedIn app on my phone, and then I can just in the evening kind of go on it, check it, send my little notes that I need to send to whoever I'm talking with at the time. And then just kind of go on about my day. It saves time. I'm not glued to my chair, my desk, my office space. And the same thing with any other social media. There's an app, and get a good phone so that you can have that app, and then just kind of go from there and keep building.
Absolutely. And I will add on to that about the apps. If somebody takes the time to send me a message, as long as it's not spam, I will respond back, because you just never know what that person needs, how that person may help you further down the road. Like, to me, it's always worth my time to at least respond back to somebody. So that's a tip that I try to give people as well. Don't be afraid to respond back to those messages, even as small or little as they, even just everybody that wished me, congratulations on your promotion. There were literally, no joke, probably 250 plus. And I know this, it said, congratulate Cara on the promotion. You just click the button. It said, congrats on your promotion. I don't care. I made a nice little thing like, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to send me congratulations. I appreciate it. I copied and pasted that 250 times too. So right back at you.
That's a good trick. I'm sure I've done that too, like copy and paste. It's all good. Whatever you need to do to save time. But it adds to your credibility, your authenticity, your integrity. And people really are craving for folks that are like that. And then that's why they follow you, and that's why they like you, and that's why they want to be around you. And you're giving something that they can then pick up and learn and use and do in themselves too. So absolutely. Yeah.
And if I may, I just want to real quickly, because you put a seed in my head, Rubina, about the kind of the difference between authenticity and transparency, because I see this come up a lot, especially when people are like, I don't know if I really want to have a social media. I don't know if I'm going to put myself out there. And I think a lot of people get those two words mixed up. Like, they think authenticity and transparency is the same thing, but I don't see it that way. For me, like, authenticity is you just being you and who you are. But transparency is like the level to which you want to share that with. And a great example is, like, let's say something happened to my cat last night and he was really sick, and I may contact my friend Jack about it and say, hey, Jack, Palpy is sick. I don't know what to do. And I share that with her privately, but I may not share it with somebody else. That doesn't mean that I don't have a good relationship with that person. That just means I have a different level of relationship. So just like we do do in face-to-face, we don't necessarily share everything with every person that we meet. You can absolutely do the same on social media through the ways that you set it up. So I always like to put that out there as well, because I think a lot of people, to me, that's like the number one thing that people say. They're like, I don't want to do social media because I don't want people to put things out there. I don't want to put things out there about my personal life. You don't have to.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to. But I think also that's kind of like a convenient excuse for a lot of people as well. What do you think about that, Alan? Do you, and this merges into a question about like having a burner account. Do you have like separate accounts for these, or how do you manage that?
With my personal life, I do keep that personal. I keep them marked as private. So if you do a search for me on Instagram, you're going to find two accounts. One is called Green Chili Cheesehead. That's because I'm originally from New Mexico and I love green chili. And now I'm in Wisconsin, so cheeseheads. You know? So those are two of my favorite things, green chili and cheese. So, but that's locked as private. If you try to look that up, try to see it, it's going to say nope, private, and you have to know me in order to get access to that account. The second Instagram account that I have is Alan Natachu. It's a more professional account, and that's my working aloud account. So that's the way I deal with personal and private. My personal life, it's locked down as much as I can. I don't post anything about. I try not to post anything about my kids on my work L&D. Sometimes it's very hard. I'm like, oh, check this out. I try not to post. I try not to post anything that I would find would not be part of L&D. I do a lot of I do a lot of research, and I do support a lot of social causes, but they may not be professional for me to post it on my public facing Twitter. So I'll post it on my private facing Twitter, or I'll post it in my Facebook with my friends and family can view it. So yeah, it's just a matter of trying to, okay, anything that I don't want posted out there, I put it in private, and I am in charge of that. What people say about you in social media is different. There may be that fear, if I link to this person, tag this person in a post, and it's a negative post, that would reflect badly on me. Well, you could always untag yourself. You could always remove yourself from that post. It's a bit more into the advanced management of your social media profiles, but that is something that you can do.
Great tip. What about you, Rubina?
I think when Alan was talking, it just reminded me of things that you probably shouldn't be sharing on social media. And a lot of people know, and sometimes they don't know. Yes, never get too personal. Keep things professional. Keep things light. Keep things short and brief. You don't have to have an entire essay on social media. And I'm so glad that Twitter kind of, restricts you a little bit from that. So that teaches you a little bit about good habits. But yeah, if you're on these other platforms and things like that, limit what you may say. Keep it positive. Keep it professional. Don't share things that you don't want your boss to know, essentially. If your boss is going to find out and not be happy with it, then you may not want to be sharing this online, especially like, photographs of yourself and things like that. We have our, the stereotype for millennials is that they don't care and that they post things and it shouldn't matter, but things definitely do matter in the other generations of folks above you in the work world, and they don't, it makes them hesitant. So why put yourself, I guess, in that situation? And perhaps the world and the culture will change at some point, but right now it hasn't. So be careful what you post out there. And if you think you did post something and it went in the wrong direction, delete it. I mean, honestly. So you can always backtrack, and I'm sure I've done that a couple of times myself too. I thought I went in one direction with a conversation and it ended up somewhere else, and it taught me a very good lesson. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to cut this short now, and we're just going to delete this, and we're going to start again tomorrow with something else. and it happens. And successes happen and failures happen. And so you got to learn from both. So there you go. Yeah.
Absolutely. I've learned some of those lessons the hard way too. And on my Twitter at my university, the president of the university, as well as the dean of my college, follows me. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, like I really have to watch what I say and do. But then I'm like, well, is that actually them, or is that like their social media manager that's in charge of it? But it is kind of a nice reminder for me, because I know that my boss follows me on Twitter, my college boss follows me on Twitter, and then the boss follows me on Twitter. So that's a lot of pressure, I think, for that. But yeah, I have been part of some of those Twitter battles. I will just put it like that. And I've actually been part last summer of a pretty bad flame war with somebody that's considered a thought leader in L&D, and we did not see eye to eye on something, and I did not step down on my argument of it, and it ended pretty bad. But I did learn a lesson from that if you disagree with somebody, do it privately. Don't put it on blast for others to read. Although I could not get a hold of this person because their DMs weren't open on Twitter. So I just want to put that out there. You should open your DMs on Twitter. Okay. If you want to get feedback on things. That's just a little peeve of mine.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, okay. So there's real life, and then there's social media life, and these two things are different, and they have different rules and different norms. And people act differently. People talk differently. People type differently. Would you type what you would say? And the answer sometimes to that is no. If you were face to face with a person, would you say it the exact same way? And perhaps you might not. So kind of just very much reevaluate it and have those checks and layers. I like that Cara has actual checks and layers, like actual people there, but always kind of just keep that in the back of your mind as well too. Even if you don't right now today, and you feel very free to say a certain thing that you may want to put out there, what about the impact of that tomorrow? So kind of think about that futuristically too. People are looking at that. Employers do look at your social media posts and things like that. HR reps look at it, I believe, all the time too. It's part of their background checking, and they do it. And so be very, very careful what you say, how you say, when you say, where you say, and how it's received too, because people will interpret things differently, especially when they're reading things online, and you'll find yourself in a tiff a lot quicker or faster online because of a misinterpretation, as opposed to just being in the room with somebody and talking to somebody, and then seeing your facial expressions and things like that. Those are things that they just don't have access to. So they misread a word and it went in a different direction, or they misunderstood, or they misinterpreted, or they posited their own bias over the words that you wrote. That will all happen. Or they just adamantly disagree with whatever point you're making and will come and try and throw some shade at you. That also does happen. So be very, very keen on it, and tread carefully through the waters, and good luck.
Going on a deeper level with interpretation, a lot of courts are bringing in chat, email messages as part of their defense, as whatever they do in the court. But it's kind of hard to talk about, okay, what does this emoji mean or that emoji mean? So interpretation is very open. And when you send something on social media, you got to be careful. Oh, does this? It seems kind of tricky about what you're saying on social media, because it could be a quick blurb, but you got to think, okay, will this stand up in a court of law? Because the crazy emoji, the one with the tongue sticking out, that might, in the US, that might mean, okay, that's crazy. But in another country, that might be a profane emoji.
No, that's true. I think I've heard about the peace sign and stuff like that. And so, yeah, here it's something different. In Australia, it's something different. So yeah,
Oh,
Be
Sonia,
mindful.
yep.
Your posts are international, so be careful about that. And that was not something that I had actually thought about, but now I will. Thank you, Alan. Now I'm probably going to just get offline and just go and burrow and never post again. So, yeah, no.
I am cracking up about Sonia's comment about the eggplant because I'm like dying inside because that's an easy one too. That and the peach, that one's bad too, right?
Oh God, that's ridiculous.
Oh,
But you're right, it is so easy to get wrong, for sure. And Alan, I went ahead and made a button for what you posted on the side. So do you want to talk real quick about what you made in Google Docs?
oh, it's just a quick listing of people to follow generated by us here in TLD chat. Click that button and fill out the information, put your info in, put other people in. And if there's other social media platforms that are not mentioned, go ahead and pop them in as well. It's got space for people you follow on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, if there's a particular Twitter chat that you follow or a Facebook group. So just go ahead and fill it out.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that. That's great.
Welcome.
All right. Let's see what else we have in the question and answer button. And again, this is a little over halfway. If you are in the chat and you're like, I want to get on and talk, please let me know. We have one more spot available for you to hop in because this is a community discussion today. I'll go ahead. We've kind of talked about the preferred platforms. It sounds like we kind of have those already on lock. I really love the idea of this question. How do you evaluate your posts from a professional level? So Rubina, you want to start on that one?
I'm still processing that one. Okay. I think I actually process that one every time I post anything. I really do like a mental checklist of, is it okay? Is it appropriate? Is it going to get me in trouble? Will it get me fired? I mean, you know, will I be banned from something on the negative scale, or on the positive scale, which I should think about? Will it get me hired? Will it get me my next job? Will it get me more contacts? Will it get me something to learn from? So I think you do that little mental checklist. Maybe I should write it down, and before I hit post, I should maybe think about it a little bit more actively. I guess I process what I say. I try to make things short and brief and resonant. I don't want to just say something to say something. I want to say something to mean something for someone. And there's a big difference. There's a lot of people throwing tweets, and I used to call Twitter, before I got on it, it was the perfect place for nitwits. And and I just say that tongue in cheek, and I was like, I didn't get the use for Twitter. I didn't want Twitter. I didn't like Twitter. I was like, it's so limiting. It's so this, it's so that. And then, you know, there's already Facebook. There's already, you know, LinkedIn. There's already other platforms out there. Why do I need Twitter? So I think a lot of people think about that as well internally too. Like, why am I going to go on this thing? And then you realize that it can be beneficial to you, to your growth and to your development. So you try it out, you check it out, see it for 6 months, and see if it works for you. And then if it doesn't, you know, delete it, try something else. But really do think about, follow those folks that you like, see what they're posting, see how they're posting, think about the things that they're not saying, and the verbiage that they're using. I would say follow first. If you're really jittery, or if you're really new to any social platform, the best thing that you can do is follow for a couple of months. And then once you see the verbiage that people are using, the frames that people are talking in, what people are saying, then you can start engaging. If you just get on board, make it just because somebody told you to make it, and start blurting things out there with no kind of purpose, I guess, it's just not going to be fruitful for you, and then you're not going to feel that you're getting anything out of it. And I've seen people who are like, oh yeah, I tried it, but I didn't like it and I didn't get out of it. And then I go, well, did you try talking about the subject matter, or did you try following these folks, or did you try it? Oh, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. So think about the utility of each platform. It differs for each one. Follow folks first, see who your trendsetters are, see what they're saying and how they're wording things, and, you know, emulating them in the beginning, especially when it's a, you know, things are going out there in the huge world. Emulate a little bit until you get comfortable, and then just start from there, and you'll get your voice. You'll get to where you need to. I think that's a safe way to do it.
Agreed. And as you said that, I'm going to look up something from Mike Taylor. So Alan, if you will give your 2 cents, that'll give me time to drop a link in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we talking about? I'm sorry, I was researching on Twitter.
How do you keep yourself in check? I guess, like, what's the yeah, like,
all right, so
how do you know to press post versus not, or delete?
All right.
I would say it that way.
Well, I like to joke around, so my Twitter is more fluff. It has a lot of jokes in it, and I like to interact with people in a joking manner, in a fun manner. So with Twitter, that's where I do it. On LinkedIn, I try to pose a more professional vibe. You know, not so much jokey, but try to be more. My name is Alan. Kind of vibe. So I write for my audience. This is what I would post and write on Instagram would be different than what I would write and post on Twitter. And that's something that I find very useful, because that helps me process, okay, I can be more loose here versus this platform where I have to, okay, check my grammar, check my punctuation, check to see if my sources are correct. So that's how I manage mine, just right towards the audience and who I follow and what I want to present.
Great. Thank you. I found what I was looking for, because I really liked Rubina's comment about if you don't know where to start, just emulate somebody. That's 100% what I did. I followed the Mike Taylor method of curation and building up your Twitter, and that's exactly what I did with that. So again, thank you, Mike Taylor. If you want more information, I dropped it there in the chat. For me, I use it, I think, a little bit differently, especially when I go to conferences or I, just basically reading. I try to read a little bit every day. So for me, instead of just like reading something like, hey, that was really cool, and just keeping it to myself, I use my Twitter to say, hey, I read this and I thought this was really cool. I'm going to share it for you and see if you get value out of it. My Twitter, I actually also put in, I have it linked up to an if this, then that, to where it creates a spreadsheet of all of my tweets for me. So instead of going to a conference and trying to take notes, I tweet my notes. I take pictures of slides. I add in resources. And the nice thing is I'm able to come back to the office or share with people at the conference that maybe didn't get to go to the same sessions that I did. And like, hey, look, here's a spreadsheet of everything that I saw at the conference. And then obviously I'm retweeting out what other people saw as well. So for me, it's about just basically like my own kind of personal knowledge management. That's kind of how I approach it. So I don't really look at it in the sense of, is this going to offend somebody? Maybe I should, but for me, I use it for my own personal kind of learning development piece of it. So that's how I approach it, for better or for worse. But I really like the fact that you all have talked about thinking more about what I need to do before I hit send. I just rapid fire. But I'm also that way, to your point, Rubina, about if you would say this to somebody face to face, I absolutely would. That's just my personality. But I see what you're saying about, a lot of times people can kind of hide behind the screen on a lot of things, but I am just as blunt in person as I am on Twitter. So just putting that.
I think if you have something defensible, definitely stick to your guns about the points that you want to make. I mean, I started, you look at L&D as a field and you see where we are and where we're at, and you do ask those questions of why we are where we're at, and should we be where we are, where we're at for a certain thing. And we have these, norms that we perhaps developed, but you can always question them. And it's always, if you can defend yourself and it's valid, yeah, never back down. I think for me, is that person going to say to you what they were going to say to your face, meaning that, are they valid? Are they correct? Because some folks can be very, very harsh online with you and wrong, and they can be wrong. And so if they are wrong, would they be wrong to you face to face? Would they talk to you that way face to face? Would they present it to you the exact same way face to face? Are they still that wrong of a person in person? Or do they then kind of calm down and realize that you are also a human at the end of your screen, and should not perhaps be so harsh in tone or in disagreement or discord or whatnot? I think, yeah. No, definitely. I'm also very rapid fire too sometimes on my Facebook, but that's a whole other discussion.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm with you 100%. We have about 15 minutes left. We still have 8 questions in here. So I want to try to get
rapid fire. There we go.
I know, rapid fire. So we're going to hop into the lightning round real quick. And just for purposes of the archive of this conversation, I just want to formally get an answer. So I'll start this time with Alan. What is your preferred platform for social media?
Social media for L&D is Twitter, followed by Instagram. I've been really happy with that, just to see what people are doing behind the scenes.
Very cool. Rubina?
Sure. LinkedIn for me, just because I've been on it the longest and the strongest, and I know how it works forwards and backwards, and I can take advantage of that. So I love it. Now I'm getting my feet wet in Twitter, and so yeah, we'll see how that works. Instagram and all this other Snapchat. Give me a minute.
You're fine.
Yeah.
You're fine. Yeah, I use kind of Instagram and Snapchat more for personal, but for me, Twitter is my heart and soul. I probably have a hashtag Twitter tattoo somewhere on me, not really. And then probably second would be LinkedIn. I'm getting more into LinkedIn. I kind of missed the boat on that, and I thought it was kind of weird, but I like it now. So that would be my 2. All right, next question. Start with Rubina. What is the best social network for finding a job?
Good. For an L&D, there is a Facebook group that is called Idle Jobs. I will find it and I'll post you the link. I can't think and type at the same time. I've never been able to do that. And it's fabulous. It's started by Dr. Robin Sargent, who's going to be on a guest in August on TLDC, and she just does it from the goodness of her heart. She was getting job opportunities, but she couldn't take it, so she started posting them out. She built this Facebook group kind of organically based around that, and then everybody on there kind of does the same thing. We hear about a job, we can't maybe take it on, so then we'll post it there, and it's been really nice and growing, and it's been a really good way to get use out of social media for that. Yeah.
I would say making personal connections on whatever platform that you're on. That's probably be one of the best ways to do that. I'm kind of hesitant. I'm insecure in a job. Just gotta let my bosses know because they follow me too. But LinkedIn, I don't know how that works in terms of job seeking. I know that's one of the things that you can do with it. I just don't know the ins and outs of it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not really sure either. I know I get contacted by recruiters at least once a day. I feel like I need to have like a can of Raid spray for them sometimes because they won't stop a lot of times. Like, well, okay, but can you help me? I'm like, I'm not doing your job for you. Like, I'm happy to refer somebody if I think they're good for it, but I'm not going to just whatever. And again, like Alan, I'm also very secure in a job, so I want to go on record saying that to you. But for my side hustling, the best social media network for me has been actually TLDC. I have made a lot of great connections here, and I've gotten a lot of side hustle work from the lovely folks here. So I would put a plug for that. That's where I found a lot of my side hustle jobs. All right. Next question. Start with Rubina. Do you regularly use social media at work?
No, and I make every time I'm on a job, I kind of disappear from social media. I don't like those paths crossing. I think the only time I would use it at work is for taking a webinar, and I would limit those 1 to 2 a week with permission from a superior or boss or whatnot. And say, hey, I want to, watch this webinar. It's really good for this reason, this purpose. That has to do with the actual job that I'm in and working on. It's not fair. It's not. It's just, I'm not sure if it's legal. Sometimes you're going to have those restrictions when you sign on to a job, if you're allowed to be on social media or not. You really should respect your employer and your company, your organization, your time, and kind of detract yourself from it, and be online off hours outside of work. You don't even need to be there at lunch checking on it. You just don't. It's rude. I think it's rude. I think it's just not fair. No. Yeah. And while Alan takes a big gulp. Sure.
Well, for me, it's as important as email, but it should not take the place of your actual work. You should go in, pop in, do what you need to do, and pop out. Like right now, I'm on Twitter and I'm trying to find stuff to post inside that document and trying to focus on everyone here. But it's one of those things where you have to manage your time. You can't spend all day on Twitter. You can't spend all day on Facebook. That's, like you said, that's just rude to your employer, rude to what you're supposed to do. But just like email, 5-10 minutes, hop in, hop out. And I do check throughout the day, Twitter and email, and I try to limit that in the morning, lunch, and before I head out.
I don't use my computer, though, at work. If I were to check any of my social media things, I would use my own personal phone that I have control over and whatnot, not use the things at the work office, because I don't know why. There's a ton of people who still do this, but no, especially if you don't want your boss knowing what you're posting. Why would you use your office computer? Because you know that they can look anytime and track anytime, and yeah, don't cross those lines. There's borders for reasons. So yeah.
No, I agree with that. But I will say that, yes, I use social media regularly at work. Typically, I roll in about 6 to 6:30 every morning. And so that first kind of hour-ish of work, I read and share and get everything queued up. And this kind of goes to the next question that we will. But yeah, I usually have it up all day on another monitor. And then we'll kind of pop in and out as needed. But obviously, my first priority is that job that I need to do that day. And I try to set like a deliverable for myself every day at work, because you guys know how it is. You never get the job done every day, right? There's always something waiting for you. So I make a goal of like, I'm going to get X done today, and then make sure that I get that first, and then, plan. And there's days that I'm just not on it hardly at all, but I like to at least have it up to pop in and out of. So, and that's Twitter and LinkedIn.
Oh, another thing I like to add to that, turn off your notifications. If you're worried about that, no notifications on your phone, on your desktop. Otherwise, that is a huge time suck. Oh, bing, bing, bing. No.
Yeah, no, limit it.
It's bad enough with email.
Yeah.
Great tips. All right. Next question is, how often do you post and do you maintain a schedule?
When I'm not working, I would say I post more often. When I'm not working, in between projects, I try to actually create more samples or go and revise my things in my portfolio, or write articles on L&D. for things that have been on my mind for months and months prior that I couldn't write about or that I couldn't talk about. And so I started doing that. I started making longer pieces. And so I think I just did an article on LinkedIn based on a talk that I had in TLDC a couple months prior, but I hadn't really kind of flushed down my points in like written and kind of have it nicely presented so that I could share, so that I could reshare it with other folks. And so I finally did that in between a project. And then that was really nice, that I could commit more time to doing that and building myself up and building the brand and building visibility, which are all good things that kind of work in your favor. My schedule, I guess, you know, I try to keep it, again, just a few hours a day if I'm creating and developing something, and then the rest of my time just kind of enjoying my time doing other things and getting other things done. You want to be healthy about your social media connections. You want to keep those things off. You know, I'm a parent. I have 2 kids. I also want to be in tune with them too. So I can totally get sucked in and be in the land of Nod for forever, but it's just not healthy at a certain point. So yeah, no.
What about you, Alan?
Weekdays, it's fair game. I check it during my 3 times during the day, and in the evening time when I'm riding a bus or got a couple of minutes in the evening, I will check it. I will post more during the day than at night. Usually I'm just consuming at night. And for my professional social media, I go dark on the weekends. I don't try to participate. It's so hard. But I try not to participate in my professional social media. That's reserved for my personal social media time.
Kara Spray actually put something really neat in the chat. I was watching it go by about just how there's so much information out there and how it can almost be like a all-you-can-eat buffet and really hard to kind of manage. So depending on that, that's how often that I post. So if I read like 4 really good things, I'll go ahead and schedule it in my buffer, and it just kind of depends on if I have something else put in. But usually I think my buffer has about 4 slots a day for LinkedIn and Twitter. So that would probably be the most that I post, like as far as pre-schedule goes. And then whatever off the cuff random thing I have pop up throughout the day, I might post that as well. But yeah, I've gotten better about going dark on the weekends too, Alan, because it was a whole lot, because I was also trying to do that as well. And I saw, based on my stats, I wasn't getting a lot of eyeballs and engagement on it. So it's like, it's not really worth my time then. And I find, especially Tuesdays between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., for some reason, that is a hotbed of engagement time. So that's my unofficial pro tip. There's no real data behind that except my own experience, but still, I thought that
lunchtime.
Yeah, on a Tuesday of all things. One last question. We have more than that, but I want to get to Cindy's question because it's a little bit different than the others. And Sonia, I hope that we've answered at least a little bit about the different platforms for the different content. I think we've touched on it. So if not, feel free to follow back up with us. But Cindy wants to know about YouTube and if any of us are using that for tutorials and sharing.
I use it more for still learning and stuff like that. I haven't gotten on board sharing things. Yeah. So Alan, go ahead.
I do use YouTube. I am a creator for YouTube. That's more of a work thing for me because I want stuff that's accessible for people, stuff that people can email and share right away. More for my shorter YouTube. I create short content for YouTube. Easily shared. That's how I use it. And when I need to learn something, I'll go to YouTube. I won't use YouTube to learn things like InDesign or some other software application because a lot of people do things differently. And I find that using lynda.com or linkedin.com or asking someone will help out, will help me more than actually trying to search that topic on YouTube. I will use YouTube, however, to learn how to fix a leak or replace my garbage disposal or change my brakes on my car. So,
yeah, I personally don't have my own YouTube channel. I mean, I have it for other little things, but right now I think the person L&D that's killing it with YouTube is Alex Salas. He has a show called Off the Cuff that he does for the ATD Central Florida. I will find a link to that and put that there in the chat, because he's absolutely killing it. He's got really great interviews, really great questions. He basically, his last 2 sessions ripped apart Bloom's taxonomy. So if you have not seen it, you definitely should watch it, because it's definitely worth your time. So, and speaking of time, we're at the end of it. I cannot believe that has happened so quickly. So before we say goodbye, Rubina, Alan, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. If you want to reach out, I just posted that up in the chat. So please feel free to link in with me. And thank you for having me. And great discussion, guys. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hey, I'm everywhere. So I'm going to be posting stuff. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. Those are my current flavors of choice. But get in contact with me. I'm most active on Twitter.
What he said, but my handle on LinkedIn and Twitter are the same. So look for Cara North 11. You can just put that at the end of twitter.com and then linkedin.com/Cara North 11. And obviously, my second home is also here at TLDC, but I'm like Alan, I'm more on Twitter. So thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend. Thanks again. And if you have any other questions, if you want to get started with social media, you don't know where to start, feel free to reach out to us. Post in the TLDC community. You have the link to the Slack, but I'll go ahead and put that one more time in case that you don't have it. tldchat.us. And have a great day. Enjoy. Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.